This evening, the Taoiseach will formally meet an atheist advocacy group for the first time in the state's history. Members of Atheist Ireland are meeting to discuss the discrimination they feel faced by atheists in Ireland, who number more than 300,000 according to the last census. Derek Walsh is a parent and an atheist. He's one of the citizens meeting the Taoiseach. He now joins me in the studio. Derek, welcome to the programme.
Thanks, George.
I mean, this is a big deal. I mean, meeting the Taoiseach for the first time in the nation's history is a big deal for atheists. So what are you going to tell him? What's your beef, really?
Well, I'm primarily there as a parent to discuss my complaint about the education system that discriminates against the non-religious and indeed against members of minority religions. Really, mostly everyone who's not Catholic is discriminated against. Religions control not just the schools, but, for example, often the hospitals. Religions are accorded tax-free status. There is the blasphemy legislation that was actually brought in 2009, making Ireland the only Western democracy in the 21st century to enact new blasphemy legislation. This has a chilling effect on free speech. There are a number of issues.
But when you, I mean, you're Irish, obviously, clearly, yeah. But if you emigrated here, say, or you left Ireland to go to Saudi Arabia, or whatever you do go to a country or grow up in a country where that is the way the country is run. It's a bit like when in Rome, isn't it, in a way?
In a way, yes, but I mean, I think we can hold ourselves to higher standards when it comes to human rights than Saudi Arabia.
The question of schools, because Rory Quinn, who was the last Minister for Education, is an avowed atheist, for instance. Yet that didn't prevent him becoming a member of Dáil Éireann or becoming Minister for Education. And under his watch, we still have Catholic schools because a substantial number of the people presumably want their children to go to Catholic schools.
Well, that's true, and the Constitution guarantees a choice. But if only Catholics have that choice, then it's not really a choice.
But there must have been there have been atheists around since time began. So if you look at my school, when I was in Cork in the 1950s, the school took in Jewish boys, but it was a Catholic school, it was run by the Presentation Brothers, but it took in Jewish boys. The only difference between them and us was at 12 o'clock when we did religious education, they got a bit longer lunchtime, or when we made our communion or confirmation or whatever, they didn't do it.
The current situation is that for the 30 minutes that religion is taught in the class, he does something else. He's in junior infants, so he sort of sits and draws pictures, colours in, looks through his books.
We don't know he's an atheist, of course. He's a junior infant.
No, we don't, and I wouldn't want to label him an atheist any more than, I would want to label the other children Catholics.
Yes. But he does something else.
He does something else.
Now, therefore, I'm asking, I suppose, is that a problem for you then?
Well, it's a problem, first of all, that this automatically isolates him. It shows him to be different, which can be difficult for a young child.
Nobody wants children to be different in school. Believe me, I understand that very clearly. That's not something you want to do.
And there's also, while we can, in theory, we opt him out of religion, he's sitting in the classroom because there are no facilities to look after him. Right. I can't do it, my partner can't, the school won't or can't.
Yes.
So he's sitting in there, he is hearing, whatever.
He's hearing about the crucifixion and resurrection and all the rest of it.
Yeah. So, some of which I don't necessarily want him to hear about yet, And certainly is.
All right, but there was... And a lot, I'm not saying this is right, but I'm trying to, the traditional way that atheists went to school, in fact, in Ireland, or all minorities really was, they didn't go to Catholic school, so that's why Jewish boys in Cork were so different. Minorities invariably went to Protestant schools. But the problem for an atheist is a Protestant school is just as bad as a Catholic school, isn't that right? Because it's preaching Christianity.
Well, pretty much, I mean, I suppose my position and the position of Atheist Ireland really is that there shouldn't be Catholic schools and Protestant schools. There should be schools that all children are welcome at, equally, regardless of their parents' religion or lack of religion. And the case of dividing, segregating children by sectarian means at a very early age, there's no good can come of that.
But this is a problem. Interestingly, that and about Atheist and Minister for Education Rory Quinn a great difficulty fixing that clearly there is a substantial proportion of people in Ireland. And atheists are a minority, but it would appear that the majority of people in Ireland want the status quo to remain.
Well, there's no necessary reason to believe that that's the case. The status quo, it's there because it's been there for years, as you say. Forever. Yeah. It's traditional. Many people it doesn't even occur to them that there's another way. It doesn't, and of course, when it's atheist, I can understand a lot of Catholics may feel that we want to take their religion away. We don't. What we want is that Catholic parents who want to bring their children up as Catholics should be absolutely free to do so. But the state should be neutral on the matter, and certainly I shouldn't be paying taxes to have my child indoctrinated into somebody else's religion.
In Britain, where as a percentage, I would think I don't know this, but I would think as a percentage there are more atheists in Britain than there are in Ireland. As a percentage of total population, but it's not important whether there are or whether or not. At least we know there are a lot there. Britain still has Catholic schools, Catholic primary schools, and Church of Ireland, Church of England primary schools, and so on. So and then they have state schools. So the idea of schools with a religious ethos. The Americans still do that. Many countries around the globe still have schools with a religious ethos, do they not?
And in a lot of countries, religious schools are private schools.
Yes.
America is one, France as well, mostly in the UK, although there's the waters are a bit murkier there.
Yes.
And that's I suppose it's fine if a parent wants that particular, a particular specific religious education on top of the state curriculum. Then, of course, they can pay to do that.
Let's go back to the 300,000 atheists in Ireland, because you're basing that on the census, isn't that right? Well, but there isn't a question in the census which says, "Are you an atheist?" I think
no, there isn't, and the numbers. There's a certain amount of guesswork with the numbers because there's no such question, and because the census, because a lot of people just tick Catholic because that's what they went to a Catholic school, so they consider themselves Catholic. Close to 300,000 either ticked no religion or wrote in other and wrote atheist or agnostic or some other form of non-religion. Obviously, a lot of people have no religion and consider themselves something other than atheist.
Yeah.
For these purposes, that's not really an issue because they are discriminated against just as much as we are.
So let's cut to the chase then, because you are getting an opportunity never offered before to an atheist group, meeting Taoiseach, Minister for Education and so on. Your group is going to say, we would like the following changes to be made to the Irish Constitution and to Irish life. And what do you think they would be?
Well, there would be the removal of religious qualifications for government positions such as the President or in practice the Taoiseach and Taoiseach, or to be a judge. So removal of those so that a conscientious atheist could potentially go for those.
Sorry, can I just say it's perfectly obvious that there have been judges and other people in these kind of jobs who've talked about who probably were atheists who went through a form. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and they would have sworn an oath before God.
They didn't believe in.
And it's hard to trust somebody. The purpose of an oath, whether you think it's a good idea or not, is it's for somebody to say, I'm definitely going to tell the truth. Yes. And if somebody is lying, and they're lying while they're saying the oath, it's very hard to believe that they're going to hold themselves to it.
Yeah, because the British have the idea, you have, and for a long, long time, you can swear an oath or you can what they call affirm. Isn't that right? So they've always had that option.
That's true, and for example, here for jury duty, in a court, you have that option either. However, the default option there is you're presented with a Bible, and if you don't wish to swear on it, then you have to make an issue of it. You have to identify yourself, and if you're in court, and depending on the jury, this could sway them. You have to identify your religious convictions.
Where do you think, for atheists, the greatest discrimination lies? I know you're a parent, and therefore you are biased, but do you think education is the single biggest area of discrimination towards atheists?
I think it probably is, because it's about our children, and it starts at a very young age, because children are educated and they're taught at the expense of the state. They are taught that they are Catholics, and they are taught how to be Catholics, and they are taught how to practice Catholicism, and so then when they grow up, they're still Catholics, because they've spent 13 or 14 years of being trained as Catholics. So that has a huge impact then, on society in general.
All right, that was Derek Walsh, who with the other atheists is meeting on Taoiseach and the Minister for Education tonight.